point, I would like to bring Ranjit to the discussion. And Ranjit, I know that you have a contrarian viewpoint. We have got access to all the latest and greatest technology. And we heard from AWS, Microsoft, and we have got a very strong other providers in this panel. Despite having access to latest and greatest technology, and India is powering technology for the rest of the world, why do you think we are still lagging at 6 to 7%? Maybe COVID will change the percentage by a few points, but really we want to kind of uncover the truth and get your insights on this, Ranjit. Over to you.
Thanks, Ranjit, and thanks CII for giving me this opportunity. Let me start on a lighter note. We all speak about cloud, the kind of benefits, all of that exists today. But every single time today I get on a VC with customers or anybody, the first statement that comes out is, can I shut off my camera? Or they log off, or they find it at least 10 times before they log in again. Now, we all know the challenges that exist. So let's get back a little bit in terms of what the cloud market is itself. Most of the time, folks like you, Deloitte, everybody says about the cloud market, and India is spoken about being a $4.4 billion market in 2021, right? What is interesting is if you look at the ICT spend itself, as far as India is concerned, India spent almost roughly about $91 billion on ICT spend. But of that, if you translate that into cloud spending, that's just about 4.8%, right? If you take this cloud spend into consideration, 72%, and most of the enterprises which Nitin Chandra spoke about are those cloud users, which is about 72% of the cloud users are large enterprises, and 28% of these are SMBs in India, right? And the SMB base in India is, as per NASSCOM itself, is almost about 74 million odd. But there are only about 4% of advanced users in that 74 million which exists. So we all agree, and I think to a large extent it is agreed upon, that cloud, accelerates digital transformation. But let's look at what is the biggest challenge. I mean, we all spoke about cloud, but the fact is there is a big challenge. The first barrier, if you look at it from the adoption itself, is the connectivity part. I mean, we all have great platforms, but we just don't have connectivity which is stable enough for us to actually do these calls. In India, if you look at it, 2G networks are still the lifeline of Indian telecom. And it was interesting when I was reading through it that almost 51% of customers of Airtel still use 2G networks, and almost 63% of Vodafone still use 2G, right? Now, there are a lot of applications which demand bandwidth, which demand certain things which cannot run on cloud because of the kind of connectivity exists. So connectivity is a problem, and India is a very, very vast country where connectivity issues still continue to exist. The second is a very primitive challenge which people speak about. I call it primitive still. It is the concern of data security and data handling and the data residency itself. And lastly, the organization compliances. As cloud abstracts the delivery of services to customers, there has been reservation by organizations not being able to host the data on public clouds. Some of these organizations, they are identified as national critical infrastructure. For example, banks, which will allow only certain patches or upgrades as far as cloud is concerned. Now, an alternative to this actually does exist, but it is about how much they use it. For example, if you look at on-prem clouds, which, for example, NxtGen offers, we do on-prem clouds on a commercial model, pay-per-use model for companies. But there is also a challenge for these financial institutions as far as the challenge of legacy applications is concerned. Many applications are just not cloud ready. Hence, they just cannot take advantage of the business agility which the cloud brings in. So what is the greatest challenge when migrating to a workload to cloud? In fact, it was interesting when you look at some of the surveys which was done, 33% are concerned how to migrate cloud without disrupting the critical business. I mean, they have these applications which are running, so they're concerned saying, how do I migrate this across to cloud? 22% were unsure about the migration itself or where to start with the kind of application sprawl which existed. Last but not the least, you had almost some people who spoke about the internal IT staff, which are not able to manage the cloud itself. Lastly, the need for cloud is also dependent on the business benefit, right? Today, if you look at India, it's considered a startup country. We have almost close to about 35,000 plus startups with about 11 unicorns which are there. But in spite of the fact that businesses can take benefit of some of these things, Largely, most of the customers have not implemented cloud also because of the fact that they don't see the business benefit of adoption of some of these platforms which are there. So in a nutshell, if you were to look at it, it starts with the aspect of connectivity itself in India, because that's a very big part in India for adoption itself. Because we could be speaking about a lot of factors around applications, AI, a lot of things which exist, but one of the area which we are trying to solve in a small way is to try and take these applications to the edge itself. Can we deliver some of these applications right at the remote locations across in the country, where we could have these edge data centers which are there, and we deliver these applications which sorts in some way the problems that exist as far as the India market is concerned? Because with almost 718 districts in India, we're still looking at a very, very small piece of, everybody speaks about cloud in Mumbai, Bangalore, or most of the metros and tier 1 cities. But the real adoption or the real benefit will come only when the larger part of India, the context of tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, start this adoption. And I don't think we've reached that scale today. And that's the reason you will find that in spite of almost $91 billion being spent, not everybody is still on cloud. I mean, just about $4 billion is still being spent on cloud as such. So I still believe India is still a long way to go as far as adoption is concerned with the kind of barriers that exist. But I'm sure with the 35% CAGR which cloud has been seeing in the last so many years, you would probably see it going in the next couple of years as far as the growth is concerned. That's my view.
Thanks a lot, Ranjit. It's very insightful in terms of the real challenges, because we don't need to tell each other that how cloud will accelerate digital transformation. But the real insightful thing is that India is still on 2G. Unless we get on better networks, resilient networks, 4G and 5G, the basic backbone needs to be there. And then it's not about all digital natives. We have got existing enterprises with existing apps. Can they move to cloud? Just lifting and shifting an application to cloud, you're lifting and shifting your problems to cloud.
That's right.
So maybe not all applications can do well. And a big area is around enabling our staff. Are people ready? And often what